Howdy folks, welcome to FoundFlix. On this Ending Explained, we'll be looking at the winner of our last viewer's choice, Silent Hill, the loose big screen adaptation of the horror video game series. But first, it's time to vote on our next viewer's choice Ending Explained, and this time it's a Guillermo del Toro showdown. The first choice is Crimson Peak, the gothic ghost story where a woman unravels the mystery of her new home and family. And your second choice is Pan's Labyrinth, the lavish fairy tale where a bookish young stepdaughter of a sadistic army officer escapes into an eerie but captivating fantasy world. Let me know which one you'd like to see by voting in the comments below or in the poll in the community tab. And for any video suggestions of any kind, make sure to send them my way on my social media accounts at FoundFlix. Now on to the subject of today's video. Silent Hill from 2006. The film version takes its overall plot from the first game, with of course several substantial changes, including switching the lead from Harry in the game to Rose, with her husband Chris sort of acting as a replacement for Harry, even though he doesn't really do too much compared to his game counterpart. But even if not entirely faithful, this does feel superior to the average video game movie adaptation because it manages to evoke a lot of the same creepy atmosphere and feel of the games. So let's dive into Silent Hill, breaking down everything you need to know about the story, connections to the game, as well as explaining the ending and how it compares to the game's original ending. We first meet the family of Christopher, Rose, and their adopted daughter Sharon in a moment of crisis. Sharon has been suffering recently from bouts of sleepwalking and has wandered off into the night, found precariously standing on the edge of a cliff and a very long drop-off, seeing the serene water transform into the twisted steel and metal that burns in the depths of Silent Hill. Seeing at the very bottom a girl that looks peculiarly similar to Sharon. She whispers home, intending to walk off the ledge, but before tumbling over, Rose catches her, though she is still in a strange state, repeating about home and Silent Hill. This behavior and sleepwalking is becoming increasingly concerning to Christopher and Rose. Chris thinks she needs treatment and medication, while Rose has her own idea, deciding to take Sharon on a trip to this Silent Hill place she keeps going on about, her only clue to figuring out how to help her daughter. Christopher later figures out her plan, and after Googling about Silent Hill, finding it listed on ghosttownsofamerica.web sounds very reputable, and unable to contact Rose, decides to head to the town himself. At a gas station asking for directions to the town, they are told the road doesn't go there anymore, and when returning to Sharon, have an encounter with Deputy Sybil. She's thinking there's some kind of abuse situation or something going on between the two of them, but Rose brushes it off, leaving the station. And in the original game, Sybil worked with protagonist Harry to find his missing daughter, a role she fills in the film as well. But Sybil still has a bad feeling about them, later finding them and wanting them to pull over. Rose does initially, but after seeing a sign nearby telling her the town is close, she floors it, barreling away at high speed, crashing through a locked gate, so it looks like the road was closed after all, probably for a good reason. Out of nowhere, a girl steps into the road in front of them, and Rose swerves to avoid her, hitting her head and blacking out. When she awakens, Sharon is gone, the area now covered in a thick fog, and ash rains down from the sky. Making her way down the road, she approaches a derelict sign welcoming her to Silent Hill. She has officially arrived into the vicinity of the otherworldly town, and the dense fog that covers the area is in fact a separate parallel dimension of her own, said to represent Purgatory, which we will see in a moment has another darker layer as well. And it appears that the town is completely abandoned, until Rose catches a glimpse of a girl resembling Sharon, leading her down an eerie staircase, hearing loud sirens starting to blare, and within moments the area is covered in complete darkness. Here's that other parallel dimension taking over, which represents Hell, in the game referred to as the Otherworld, defined by its industrial and decayed appearance. Rose is stopped in her tracks by a coal miner hung up on a fence, who is still very much alive. He's pretty spooky, but she should really be more worried about the weird, crispy-skinned, glowing, child-sized creatures that appear in a horde behind her, known as the Grey Children, who unlike in the game, don't have knives here, which I'd say is a good thing. And also in the film, they have an additional meaning which we will get to as the story unfolds. The children grab at her as she tries to crawl away, before abruptly dissolving into ash, causing Rose to again pass out, waking up in the same spot, no longer as dark and foreboding, but foggy. Still very foggy. As you see, the other world only lasts temporarily. Interestingly, this entire sequence, starting all the way from Alessa appearing and causing the wreck, first entering the town and experiencing the other world in an alley, through her encountering the Grey Children, is almost exactly a beat-for-beat recreation of the early section of the game. Nice! Running back to the road that leads out of town, the road is, well, not there anymore. The end of it now is straight shot into foggy oblivion. This phenomenon of preventing characters' escape from the town town in the game series is called Full Circle, preventing someone from leaving until they complete what the town wants them to do. A woman, Dahlia, calls out from behind, saying only the Dark One opens and closes the door to the town. Rose tries to ask her about Sharon, and curiously, when showing her a picture, she becomes agitated, saying she's mine and lunging at the locket. She too has lost a daughter, Alyssa, who is the same girl that we saw earlier that looks just like Sharon. At the car, Rose discovers a clue to her next step when coming across some more of Sharon's drawings, focusing on one of a school. She leaves a message for Christopher saying she needs his help, and we see that there is some connection between the two dimensions when Chris, who is still in the real world, replays the message later. The audio is garbled, but he can still make out some of the words amongst the static, and it turns out Sybil is still around, promptly arresting Rose after noticing her daughter is missing, and tries to escort her out of town, but oh yeah, there's no way out. It looks like the deputy is starting to finally figure out that things aren't too normal around here, but normal is about to be flung out the window when Sybil's walkie starts making noise, and they spot a strange figure on the other side of the fence. It's an armless flesh man who hobbles out, saying hello by spurting black acidic goo onto the deputy's clothes, and Rose takes advantage of the fracas to escape her grasp, following the maps on the bus line in town to get her to the school. Once she arrives, she sees a religious symbol on the door. It looks like the town was under the order of some kind of religious cult, and still is to some extent, as some of these fanatics are still around. Rose encountering some of their goons, sending her to hide in a classroom, passing by the desks, one catching her attention, seeing handprints amongst the ash, which carved into the wood inside of the markings. Inside the desk, she finds a book belonging to Alyssa, flashing back to her at school with kids screaming "Burn the witch" in a mob. This doppelganger of Sharon is the one that Rose has been seeing, leading her here, and in order to save her daughter, she will have to uncover the truth about this other little girl. Spotting her now at the top of the stairs, she follows after her to a bathroom. Rose checks the stalls, hearing a girl crying out from one, opening the door to a horrific sight. A man is strung up in barbed wire, body twisted and destroyed, seeing on his name tag the name Colin. All around the walls are dares written, and arrows conspicuously pointed right at Colin's mouth. Rose reluctantly puts a hand in, pulling out another important clue, but doesn't have time to investigate further as the masked men are back. They quickly lose their determination when their canary starts going nuts, and the men run out in a hurry, indicating the darkness is coming. The room changes, the walls dissolving away into tiny shreds, revealing cages in place of the stalls. And down at the end, Colin emerges, in the other world looking very different and monstrous. Something else begins to percolate from the ground nearby. Giant, disgusting cockroach parasite things that pour out as Rose rushes downstairs, seeing the suited men being swamped by them, their bodies completely covered in the bugs. Also around the same time, Christopher and Officer Gucci make their way into town in search of Rose, ending up at the school where she currently is. However, since they are not in the foggy world, the two never see each other even when in the exact same space, though Christopher says he could smell her perfume. Again, these are parallel dimensions on top of each other, with some overlap, but not enough to see Rose. Rose makes it outside, where our dear old friend Pyramid Head, here called Red Pyramid for some reason, makes his first appearance, emerging with all of the critters crawling all over him, which he doesn't seem to really mind. Running back inside, Rose breaks down as the cockroach thingies swarm towards her, pulled away just in the nick of time by Deputy Sybil. "Thanks, buddy. Sorry for running off back there." The two barricade themselves in another room, sealing the door with a large pipe, but PH is right behind them, making his presence known by stabbing his giant blade through the door like butter. Man, that is one big sword that guy's got. Lordy! But it looks like the darkness fun time is over for now, as he walks away, all of the bugs disintegrating into the ceiling. Realizing that piece she pulled out of Colin is from the hotel in town, Rose determines that must be where to head next. There they find Dahlia being stoned by another woman, Anna, who is part of the local religious group, damning Dahlia for her sins. Sybil checks the room's mail slots, seeing something in the cubby for room 111, another drawing of Sharon's. But when the girls search the halls, there appears to be no room 111. Looking at a portrait portraying a witch being burned, Anna says it's from the first burning, describing the founders of the town as witch hunters, burning witches in order to stop the apocalypse. Making the connection between the drawing they just found and the painting, Rose realizes it must be here, slicing open the picture, revealing room 111 hidden on the other side, catching a glimpse of Alyssa, who Rose chases after, following her to an area with a huge hole in the floor. She traverses across the debris, asking who she is. "It's Alyssa! I'm burning!" she exclaims, flames, her arms setting ablaze and disappearing as the other two arrive. Now Rose realizes it was Alyssa that caused the crash that brought them here, and as mentioned has been guiding her, giving these clues to uncover her history and the important places where something went wrong. Suddenly birds fly out of the hole. Anna, knowing this means the darkness is coming back. Sybil and Rose follow her to the church where the rest of her religious friends stay. At the steps, Dahlia is there. The walls around them begin to tear away, flying into the sky. They run inside, Dahlia and Anna still on the steps. Anna is just about to throw another stone until PH manifests, pulling off her clothes and then her skin with the same amount of ease. Geez, Pyramid Head does not play around. At least they'll be safe inside of a church, right? Nope, as the two are immediately labeled witches by the followers, everyone instantly screaming out for them to burn. Sybil silences them by firing into the air, which upsets their leader Christabella, as this is a sanctuary after all. She asks Rose if she has faith, saying that it keeps the darkness away and could help her find her daughter, as only the demon knows where she is. The demon being located in the depths of the Brookhaven Hospital, also a prominently featured location in the game. The way down is appropriately an elevator, Rose wondering if it really works, but Clarabella reassures her if the demon wants you, it will. She returns Rose's locket taken at the church, but flips her lid when seeing the picture of Sharon inside, calling her a witch and to not let them down. Sybil gets a handle on things, kicking the gas mask bros' butts and getting Rose on the express elevator to hell. Unfortunately, she's out of bullets to finish the job and gets pummeled and taken as prisoner. Rose makes it to the basement of evil, now fully enveloped in the industrial steam and fleshy-walled nightmare of the otherworld, coming across a group of faceless creatures in nurses' uniforms that convulse to life, here referred to as dark nurses, these most closely representing the bubblehead nurses from the second game. Rose shines her light towards them, causing them to twitch and stomp to life. Realizing they are attracted to the light, she turns it off, and they instantly all stop. But in order to get past them, she has to carefully maneuver her way between them and hope they don't notice her. A few do react as she passes, but one definitely notices her, slicing at Rose with a knife, but instead slashing the throat of one of its own, leading to widespread slaughter amongst the monsters, providing an easy distraction for Rose to move on. Entering into the room she's been searching for, she finds herself completely overtaken in a bright white light, hearing a child's voice congratulating her for making it here, telling her her reward is the truth. We're finally gonna find out what happened to Alyssa. She goes into flashback, referring to herself as being a good girl even if others didn't see her that way, accompanied by the students taunting her, going on to say that she didn't have a father like them, seeing in the bathroom a creepy janitor hungrily eyeing her. Alyssa screams, obviously assaulted by the man, whose name is, wait for it, Colin, the same guy wrapped up in barbed wire that's now an evil monster used to initially be this man. Christabella and her followers believed Alyssa to be a witch for no discernible reason, and naturally want to cleanse her of her sin to restore the town's purity, her saying they have a special place for their ritual as she is brought to the Grand Hotel. Her mom Dahlia, also at this point part of the religious group, only now seeing what's happening to her daughter, realizes maybe this wasn't such a great idea after all. In room 111, Christabella intends to sacrifice Alyssa by burning her over what looks like a large barbecue. But things go awry when the contraption comes loose, sending the coals inside spilling out, starting a fire in the room, everyone quickly panicking as it spreads. Dahlia does return with the police in tow, but it's too late. Alyssa, taken out of the room, severely burned, but still alive. She continues they should have known better than to hurt her, as fear and pain turn into hate, and that Alyssa's hate grew inside of her and got so strong she hurt someone who was only curious. That curious person being her nurse, seen peeking in at Alyssa, who is a reference to Lisa from the game wearing the same outfit. That's when I came, she says, watching a shadow pass by the curtains of her hospital room, who becomes known as Dark Alyssa, a fragmenting of the original little girl. Dark Alyssa telling herself it's her turn now and they will all fall into their darkest dream, placing their hands up against each other on the curtain, the darkness beginning to grow, becoming more intense as the room burns away, creating the otherworld dimension. And here, her initial revenge was enacted on those who had harmed her previously, like the kids who became the eternally burning Grey Children to make them suffer the same fate as her, as well as the janitor Colin who abused her, now turned into a twisted monster. As the light fades away, Rose finds herself in Alyssa's hospital room, the original Alyssa, now grown up 30 years after the incident. She asks the other where her child is, but Dark Alyssa corrects her, that Sharon is not her child, but the original Alyssa's. Sharon is a manifestation of her goodness, while Dark Alyssa is, you guessed it, her evil side. To break all of this down, Alyssa was a normal young girl, and Dahlia's daughter. She was wrongly persecuted by Christabella and the others, believed by them to be a witch. When attempting to burn her alive, the ritual went wrong, starting the fire of 74 that became the end of Silent Hill, causing the fires in the mine that still continue to burn. Though Alyssa was severely burned in the fire, she was believed to be dead. But her mother kept her alive in secret, and after some time, the original Alyssa's anger and hatred grew, and she eventually created two separate light and dark doppelgangers in her childhood image. The dark one taking control over Silent Hill, while the good one was sent to a world outside of this hell, that being Sharon, who ended up with Rose and Christopher. And after 30 years of waiting, it's time for Alyssa's dream to end, and with Dark Alyssa's help, can finally exact her revenge on the fanatics with an assist from Rose. Since Dark Alyssa cannot enter into the group's church due to their faith, it is possible for her to get in using Rose's body as a meat suit. She's confident that Christabella will find Sharon wanting to sacrifice her as well, which happens as predicted. Sharon found hiding with Dahlia. In their big ritual chamber, Sybil is still alive, reassuring Sharon that her mama is coming, which is true in more ways than one. But before tending to Sharon, decides to get the party started with Sybil, lighting the fire and bringing her down to lay right on top of it, melting her flesh terribly and killing her. When it's just about to be Sharon's turn, Rose arrives. She urges Christabella to tell the truth about the fire, pretty much telling her she's full of crap and is actually a total sinner herself. And Christabella is like, yeah, well maybe, but I'm still gonna burn you and I'm gonna stab you. How do you like that? Rose beginning to bleed a lot more right onto their symbol, which begins to tear away, revealing flames below. It seems that was actually Alyssa's plan, to get her blood spilled on their symbol to destroy it and thusly allow her access, as out of the hole emerges legions of barbed wire along with older Alyssa lifted into the room, brought to face Christabella. The barbs twist around her arms, lifting her into the air, then shooting through her body in every direction. And Dark Alyssa looks very happy with this outcome, dancing happily in the blood and gore as she is split in half, the wire then setting loose on all of the other followers, violently taking them all out. Rose goes to set Sharon free, Dark Alyssa climbing up towards them. Rose tells Sharon to keep her eyes closed, clutching her tight as Alyssa gets closer to them, but Sharon can't help it, making eye contact with Dark Alyssa standing right in front of her. And I'll tell you what, she should have listened to her mommy and not looked, because this caused the two to become one again, the Dark Alyssa reuniting with her doppelganger Sharon in her body. Though of course Rose is unaware of this. Arriving back at the car, Rose tries to start it, but it doesn't appear to work until Sharon allows it, starting the engine with her mind. They speed off into the fog, passing over the edge that is now reconstructed. As Dahlia said, only the Dark One can open and close the door to town. Now that the Dark One is in Sharon and Alyssa had her revenge, this allows them to finally leave Silent Hill. When they enter the house, Chris is napping on the couch, and Rose takes a seat directly across from him, but she doesn't see him staring into an empty space. While he wakes up, finding the front door open, though no signs of anyone else around or their car for that matter. This is because Rose and Sharon are still in the foggy world dimension, not back to the real world where Chris is and has always been. The foggy dimension is meant to represent purgatory, and essentially Rose and Sharon are trapped here by Sharon's doing. Most likely she brought Rose here so she can be alone with her new mother. As is said by both Dahlia and Rose, in the eyes of a child, mother is God. And now that Dark Alyssa has a mother of her own, she doesn't want to let her go. This leaving their final fates up in the air. And with that abrupt cliffhanger of sorts, we have reached the conclusion of Silent Hill. But let's compare how the movie ends to the original game's ending, which has several possible outcomes, but we will focus on the so-called good plus ending. As I mentioned, many of the overall elements and story beats are similar between the two. However, the cult, which is also different in the game, also has a different endgame. Rather than being witch hunters, it's actually Alyssa's mother Dahlia that seems mostly responsible for what happened, rather than the loner outcast of the film. Her here intending to sacrifice her daughter to bring about the birth of the god worshipped by her cult. This caused Alyssa to split her own spirit in order to prevent its birth, the other half becoming Harry's daughter Cheryl. Alyssa called Cheryl to Silent Hill to restore her power, and they physically merge as in the film, but instead here becoming the angelic incubator. And if you save Kaufman, he appears, throwing a vial of aglafatas, a red liquid that can dispel demonic forces at the incubator, exorcising the god. As the incubus manifests out of her, becoming its own entity, it turns on Dahlia, killing her, and Harry Harry is forced to fight and defeat the creature. After the battle, the weakened incubator hands him a child, telling them how to escape. Harry and Sybil continue towards freedom, but the entirety of the other world is collapsing too quickly, and the incubator uses the last of her power to keep the world together long enough for them to get out of town. In the end, the incubator is consumed in flames, leaving Harry, Sybil, and the new baby safe thanks to her sacrifice. So while overall similar, the story goes in quite different directions, as well as the game's ending feeling a lot more conclusive. If you're wondering, the film's sequel Revelation does continue the story further, confirming Rose to be trapped in the Foggy world, while also simultaneously completely undoing the entirety of the first film at the same time, which is an interesting choice. But digging further into the sequel will take another video, so stay tuned for my look at Revelation coming very soon. What did you guys think of Silent Hill and its ending? How do you think it stacks up as a video game adaptation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.